podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Join us on this week's Ospreys Diary as we discuss all of the pole game, the celebrations, the fun, the excitement. We look ahead to the next round of the European Cup, and more importantly, we're back in business with Benetton visiting Swansea this weekend, so we'll have a look at that one as well. Let's get on with the show. This is the Ospreys Diary. And welcome to this week's edition of the Ospreys Diary with me, Lee G. Joining me as normal is Zach and Nick. Good evening, gents.
Hello there. Good evening.
Evening, Lee.
And Zach's microphone is now working. Always a bonus on that one, mate, when doing a pod. And down in the bottom corner there is the newest member of the team. Now, some of you may remember Josh if you're absolutely dedicated fans to rap. So, Josh, you've been on rap before. You're now on home turf with the Ospreys. Good evening, my friend.
Good evening. Yeah, pleased to finally be called up to the big pod, the Ospreys Diary.
It's good to have you here. It's good to have you, mate. So, just kick off and give people a bit of a rundown of who you are and why you love the Ospreys and all of that kind of malarkey, mate.
Yeah, so this is going to sound bad, but I actually started off as a Scarlets fan in the mid-2000s, simply because they were the first team I watched in the Power Gen Cup final back then. And then saw Wales win the Grand Slam in 2005. Saw Gavin Ensign with his tan, his spiky hair, kicking goals. I was like, right, who does he play for? And it was the Ospreys. So I was like, right, okay, from now on, I'm an Ospreys fan. And got to see the Galacticos era, and then the other side of the Galacticos era. But still going strong, and still watching them week in, week out.
Man, I mean, as those who heard before, you know, I'm a Scarlet supporter. I'm just here to give you guys a hand to get up and running and what have you. But I'll forgive you that one, Josh. You know, there's only so much room in the stadium, mate. Sometimes it overflows. No, it's good, mate. It's good to have you on board because, as I say, we've spoken before, and always gone down really well. So, yeah. So let's crack on with this week then. So I will put that up front at the start. I am a Scarlet. I'm here to help just get you guys up to run, and hopefully next week after, you won't see me again. But I'm going to try and shut up as we speak tonight. There were a couple of people on social media who objected to me being here, and I offered them the chance to come on the pod, and they haven't replied after that. So if you are one of those people and you don't like me here, there's a spare seat. Come and take it. Okay. Right. Let's do a little bit of news desk then. So announced this evening, we've got Adam Jones coming home to coach the Welsh pack. So Zach, what are you making of that as an appointment?
It's in the rare case of the Welsh Rugby Union doing something sensible for what seems like the second time this week, which is like pure insanity. And I'm wondering what's the catch. But if there isn't anything to it, I think it's just like an excellent piece of business. He's been really good with the Harlequins, got their scrum up to one of the best in the league, helped develop talents like Carl Sinclair before he went on to the 2019 World Cup where he was imperious. Will Stewart currently, Finn Baxter currently, who's tearing things up and just bossing things, trying to become England's main loose set. He's done amazing things with scrum. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been in a Wales squad earlier. I mean, today we have lots of promising scrummagers looking at. I'm completely blanking on everyone's names. This is really quite disappointing. But giving like a Kieran Azarati or a Gareth Thomas, there we go, to Adam Jones is just going to like improve their scrummaging tenfold. And they're not bad scrummagers by any might as they are at the moment. I think it's only a good thing. It's nice to see him come back to Wales, to us.
Absolutely. Josh, Nick, just quickly, what do you make of that appointment?
I think we're going to go really well in any playoff in the Six Nations for the chase. as Adam's already been on and did it very well. So yeah, bring it on. Let's have a Six Nations chase, and I'm for once putting our money on us, Wales.
Oh, okay, Josh, what do you make of it?
I think it's something we massively underutilised in Wales is ex-players' knowledge, and I think other countries tend to value it a lot more. You see Halfpenny going to Crusaders and passing on his knowledge to their fullbacks. I'd like to see a lot more of it. I want to see Dan Bigger working with Dan Edwards and working on his game management. I want to see Halfpenny working with Cam Winnett on his positioning. So yeah, as mentioned before, he's done great things with Carl Sinclair. He went on the 2017 Lions tour off the back of working with him. Same with Finn Baxter. So yeah, I think it's a great appointment, a step in the right direction.
And I think,
Absolutely.
sorry, the other thing I'd add seriously is that he's a character. I think he will be a really good addition to the squad environment down there in the Vale, having him on board.
And will significantly improve the quality of haircuts that are currently in the squad. So
Bring back the dreadlocks.
yeah. Sticking with you then Josh. So Sean Lynn, also, like I say, we're all in shock this week as to the common sense coming out of the WRU. I will put this in, it's only Wednesday. There's plenty of time for it to go wrong this week, isn't it? So Sean Lynn as women's coach, what do you make of that?
I think it's a brilliant appointment. He's done great things with Hartbury first at the university side. They won a couple of Bucks championships, so did a great job with them. He actually coached me down at Hereford, so he's got history of working with great players, obviously. To be fair, I think that was one of the only sides he hasn't won anything with. So yeah, I won't take full blame for that though. But yeah, no, going on to Gloucester Hartbury women's team, won 2 back-to-back women's premierships, which is obviously amazing. And they're looking strong to do the same again this year. Yeah, it's mad. It seems like one of the first good appointments for WIU. They've got a lot of Welsh talent as well in that Gloucester side, so I'm hoping he can bring that into the Welsh side. I couldn't believe how badly we did in the Women's Six Nations last year, considering how many of our players are playing in the Women's Premiership doing really well. So yeah, I'm hoping he can get the best out of them.
Yeah, and I think he, let's say, if he can bring a little bit of that Gloucester Hartbury stuff with him, the problem there is that he's working in the WRU, and we've got to give them a bit of time to correct themselves and what have you. But if they treat him right, he will absolutely deliver. And like you say, he is a really, really nice guy as well. So
I think the other thing to add there is obviously, thankfully, the Welsh Rugby Union have seen the centre of Welsh rugby is Australia, and bringing 2 coaches. One there, I think he's from Wainarlywydd, and obviously Adam's from Abercrave. So he's, finally the WRU has seen sense.
I've got to hold myself back, folks. I'm going to hold myself back.
I mean, the best times in Wales were always when the Welsh team had 13 Ospreys in. I'm thinking back to 2008 specifically. I don't think why we should change from that, to be honest.
You boys are doing this deliberately now, aren't you? No, I 2 fantastic coaching appointments this week. It really is, and more of that we need. And his name slips my head now. The psychologist as well that's coming in. Yeah, like I say, we spoke about it on Wrap, and I think that is probably the key to unlock all the other doors. That you can bring these coaches in, but if the players aren't in the right headspace, then nothing's going to happen. And I think he's the key to making that work on that, which is cool. Okay, so I'm just going to slip in now. If you're enjoying what you're hearing and what you're seeing on the Ospreys Diary, then do please give us a like and a rate and a review. Subscribe on our YouTube channel, because that's going very well at the minute as well. Makes us all feel warm and fuzzy, and you'll get to see all the other stuff from all the other pods. There will be a women's pod this week as well, which is great. We always enjoy the women's pod. And for those of you that are blessed with the golden tongue, you will see Nick on the Pod Cymraeg as well. this week, which is always my favourite. So, okay. So before we crack on with the poll game and all of that kind of stuff, we want to bring into this pod the connection with the community game. So Nick's done a bit of work on the community game and had a look at them and all of that. So it always takes a while to get this side of the podcast right and up to speed and all of that. So if this is your passion, and if you're sitting there and you're listening and you're going, oh, actually, you should be looking at this side and that side, and they're really good, and that was a cracking result. Loving those comments, bring them on board. But if that's your passion, then come and do it on here, because people love it. You know, every single player starts a community club, and they're really, really important to uphold the pyramid and all of those people that are on top. So more stuff with community game we want. So Nick, over to you, mate. Tell us about the community game.
Okay, start off with the game between Gowerton, I think probably Gowerton seconds, and Mumbles. Very close game, but Mumbles came out on top, 20 points to 17. Swansea Uplands then beat Carmarthen 45-0. So making up, I think they're making the Uplands a bit of a fortress on the hill there in Swansea. Aberafon Green Stars had a comprehensive win against Morriston, 54-19. Vardra travelled up to Built Wells and won 27-19. Nantyfyllon had a very good game with Ystad Gunlais. But Ystad Gunlais just coming out on top, 28-27. Baglan beat Kevin Cribwr, 32-23. Bryn Coch and Nantamol, another close game, 15-13. South Gowerth, 32. Carmarthen, 9. Cwmgors, 11. Maesteg, 27. Rigos, 37. Crynant, 18. Dunmont Athletic, 33. Cwmgwrach, 24. Glyn Corwg, 7. Cwmtor, 61. So a very comprehensive win for Cwmtor. Penlan, 58. Cwm Llanfell, 5. Taibach, 43. Banman, 14. And then the National Championship West, Glynneath, 43. Crymych, 17. Gowerton, 19. Trebanos, 27. So Mr. Tiprick were very pleased. Kevenick Hill, 13. Llanelli Wanderers, 25. Tondi, 19. Dunfant, 10. Ystalyfera, 43. Maesteg Quins, 14. Those are obviously Welsh Prem results. And then we've got Penclough, 5. St Clears, 53. And then Pontedilais, 32. Felin Foyle, 24. And unfortunately, Wynarwydd went down 27-15 at home to Aberystwyth.
So that's a selection, because the list is like that, and so it's about picking up the game. There's some big scores in there though, some big hefty scores, and so we're going to be doing more of that every week, just kind of connecting with local teams, local fixtures, and all of that kind of stuff, all the way down to, I think Division 5 is the lowest now. Division 5 Division, something like that. So yeah, more of that to come. So just before you do the update on the under-20s, Nick, there was something I forgot to mention in news. So we've been talking to the Ospreys supporters club, who will be coming on the pod in a couple of weeks' time, and we've been talking to them about the charity work they're doing with Ospreys in the community, and who are doing a bike ride. So we're going to post this out on socials after we post the pod tomorrow. The Ospreys in the community are cycling 380 miles from Amsterdam to Paris to support some of the projects that they've got. So really good causes, loads of projects that Ospreys in the community support. So we'll share that tomorrow, and we'll share the link as well. I'm curious why they go from Amsterdam to Paris. And somebody somewhere's gone, we're going to do a bike ride. It's not, let's go from Amsterdam and then we'll go to Paris. Well,
it's mainly flat. It's mainly flat.
It's like, yeah. So, So I said I'd give that a shout out. I forgot that while we were doing the news. So
Yeah.
that'll be on our socials tomorrow. So by all means, do give those guys a support because they'll be on the pod to talk about it in a couple of weeks' time. So my apologies on that, Nick. What have we got from the under-20s, mate?
Well, first of all, I think that you can see a little bit of some forward thinking. Really, I think Howley's probably had an influence here along with the coach. In that they've actually seemed to be taking it quite seriously this year. They've had a couple of friendly matches before Christmas. They've had the two academy games. I think they're having a run out on Friday against a Welsh team down at the Vale. So they're trying to get the players up to speed, and I think we've got more players this year who were involved last year and have had some first team experience as well. A lot of the boys have obviously crossed the bridge and are playing in England. But thankfully, they've chosen to carry on playing for Wales. Or in the case of Luke Evans, who's a 6'8" second row, has come back to play for the Wales. So that's great. Those are sort of very positive, wider moves for us here in Wales. Obviously, the main Osprey players are Dan Jemini, who actually had a debut out in Ulster, came on, plays back row or second row. Ian Cornelius is the gentleman who's come over. I think he's part Maori, what mother's Maori, father's Welsh, or vice versa.
Yeah, his dad's from Swansea, so
Yeah, big lad on the wing, big heavy lad. So you'll bring power game. Obviously, is and also Lewis Edwards, who's an 18-year-old fullback for the Ospreys, and again another big lad. I think probably the other thing from the Ospreys' point of view is there's no Morgan Morse, even though he's still eligible. So I think the thinking is he's going to be heavily used by Ospreys during the Six Nations block, which is good for his longer term development. And who knows, perhaps before the end of the season or post season, as Wales go to Japan, he might even be called up to the full Welsh team squad as opposed to going to the under-20s Rugby World Championship end of June, July. So that'll be interesting to watch. And also just a shout out to two boys from the region who've been playing in Aberavon. Saul Hurley is a hooker, and Scott Denevo, I think he's a fullback. So that's our contribution to the under-20 squad. But wish them obviously all the very best. Hoping that we have a pretty good season, and obviously all the whole of the Welsh under-20s team. Hope they do well.
Cool. Fantastic. Okay, let's talk Poe. So hands up first, who actually saw the game live? Yeah, oh yeah. And Josh is going like, yeah, I watched it later.
Unfortunately, I went on Saturday, so I had to catch you on S4C. But to be fair, it saved me £7, so I'll take it.
Well, let's start with you then, Josh. What did you make of that game?
Yeah, really impressed to be fair. Obviously, it probably was a mixture of Poe's first and second team. But in France, with the salaries, what it is, even their second team is very strong. I thought Dan Edwards controlled the game really well from 10, despite a retreating scrum, which is probably something he's going to have to get used to in the Six Nations. So it's good to get the practice in early. Morgan Morse was superb, considering he hasn't had many minutes this season because of injury, but he was pretty unbelievable, to be honest. And Jack Morgan is just, I don't even know what to say about him at this point. We're so lucky to have him, and I'm just so happy he plays for my team, to be honest, because he's one of those players. I imagine if you had to play against him, would be an absolute nightmare.
Imagine losing him to your closest rivals. I just couldn't. I really couldn't imagine doing it.
Oh, honestly, yeah. I think I'll be able to get over it.
I'm not saying anything. So, Zach, what did you take out of that as right? These are the bits that we need to work on. Let's go with that. What did you take out?
Our scrummaging isn't good enough, which feels weird to say, but without Gareth Thomas, our scrums looked really 50-50 this season. Like Ben Warren and Rhys Henry are excellent tight end backups, but they're not at the same level as Tom Beaufort in that imperialness. I mean, with that, you're coming up against a fully international front row and being told to go win a scrum, but like Stefan Thomas just didn't look has some work to do. He's getting there. He's much better than he was last season, and Duncan's done a great job. But at the same time, it's something that's a little bit concerning, especially coming into a Six Nations against some quite big teams with much bigger budgets. I am not as concerned as I might be, though. I mean, you're not going to come up against a full Georgian front row every week, very frankly. And it's at the end of the day, we got like, shipped a few points because of it, but we actually managed to get parity towards the end of the game, which probably showed some knack in just adapting to it. I think once Ben Warren came on, made a big impact, and Garen Phillips came on and looked like peak Kieran Reid around the loose, which was just immense. His support line and offload for final try was just like it's something you saw out of a winger. You don't see that from a type 5 forward ever. Glorious hands, good finish. It's honestly just it's nice. I must say, I'm still very shocked that we won it. My exuberations after the game were not something I'd like to live on in camera. I did record the reaction. It didn't make it out for various reasons.
Did you see Morgan Morse kicking out at the end?
Yeah, I was pretty
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
I like how he ran away from the touchline to do it and then nearly fucked it.
oh yeah, it bounced in the field of play, and the nearest player to it was a Pope. If that bounces the wrong way, that was
Something.
I
Never
can't.
trust a bouncer.
He's
Of
got the
rugby.
full skill set. He just deliberately bounced it.
Give them the temptation of fate. Give them a thought they might have it still.
So, Nick, I mean, you watched it from sunnier climes,
Yeah.
but what did you make of that for supporter? I mean, it's been a rough start to the year as a supporter. What does that now mean to supporters?
I think it was just a really positive performance for 80 minutes. We were brave, we were determined, we were physical. I think the physicality we can offer is back to where it was last year. We've got plenty of options at 4, 5, and 6. I personally like a big 6. I think it allows the 7 and 8, especially when you're paying somebody like Jack Morgan and Morse, who are really good on the outside channels. If you've got somebody like Ratty or possibly Will Griff or Tristan Davis came on, looked
He was
good as
great.
well.
He was great. I loved him.
If you've got those big guys doing the donkey work, it allows those other players, which I mentioned, who have the wider skills. Morgan Morris would be another one as well, to perhaps play a little bit of a wider game. So, I think it really augurs well now for the rest of the season. We're bound to pick up further injuries. It's the nature of rugby. But on the other positive side, we're going to have people, in a month or so, 6 weeks, 2 months, like Adam Beard and Dewi Lake back as well. So, yeah, bring on the Scarlets on the 6th of April.
Mm. Well, I was going to ask you about that, Josh. I mean, next round is Scarlets. So we've got the time and date now. So it'll be late on a Sunday. Nick has already booked out 3 Premier Inns just to make sure that he can get a place. But it comes the week after the league clash. How are you reading that, Josh? How do you think that's going to work?
I think if they can market it in the right way, they should get really good attendances for both games. They could even potentially work together and offer one game and then the other game half price and do it that way to try and get the attendances up and really sell it as a double header, a 2-legged game almost. And yeah, because obviously the attendance at Christmas was disappointing, but because of the timing of the game, I think it was the 21st of January, it was the weekend before Christmas. It was always going to be difficult. But I think they really need to push this game to try and get the attendance 10,000 plus. It's a knockout game. It's Europe. It's a local derby. why wouldn't you want to go?
How special is it for you, Zach? Because I believe that you may be venturing downwards for this one.
I say it's venturing upwards, if anything, but it's it's a special occasion. I've seen the Ospreys with knockouts before, and I've never really given us much of a look in until last season. I was really annoyed I couldn't make it to the Brewery Field to see the game in Sale. I was really annoyed about that, but I'm making right of it of going to see another Ospreys victory against the Scarlets, one of the many in a row that I don't think is going to be beaten either. Like I think it's going to be a great occasion either way. Going to the Scarlets will have a chip on their shoulder no matter what happens. Going into that first game after losing by what, a single point in the Swansea.com earlier this year, they're going to come in with looking to have a scrap, and I think that's going to help the atmosphere. That's going to help the vibe. It's going to sell tickets at Wembley. Sell it
I
as a
think
derby.
it's
You'll get the derby.
sorry. I think it's going to be very interesting to how both teams approach the league game, because it's, we've seen it before in other competitions, other teams, where you can win the first game when you have these sort of double headers and then lose the second, and vice versa. So it's like, in our case, because we're going away, do we sort of pick, a mixed team to go to Parker Scarlets and hold our best 15 back for the following week? Or do we go for both? I suppose it'll also depend where we are, both teams are in the league, and and obviously the same applies to the Scarlets. It will be interesting to see how Mark Jones and Dwayne Peel approach the selection come the time.
I think it's interesting. I think this should be the Ospreys' almost farewell to the Liberty. This is the big chance to fill, certainly the first layer and potentially more. Realistically, before COVID, the Boxing Day game at Parker Scarlets, I went to a couple of them over a couple of years, and we were getting full stadiums, 14,000. There was talk at one point of putting the extra seats in and what have you. There's no reason why we can't do that at the Liberty and really
I've been
make
to
a
Boxing
big.
Day games, likewise Lee, at the stadium, and there've been 12, 14,000 there. So,
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
obviously pre-COVID, but yes, and obviously the great bonus, should the Ospreys go through, they would then have a further home draw in the quarterfinals, which obviously is what we didn't have last year when we ended up having to go to Gloucester for the quarters. And I think it's, having a home fixture in a knockout competition, well, any competition, but particularly in a knockout competition, is a big thing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think you're right when you talk about the league and where people are in the league. And we discussed this on Ratnick, where the Ospreys are in 14th, which sounds really bad, as you're two off the bottom, but one decent win and you're in the top half of the table. That everywhere from kind of, I'd say, third, yeah, Cardiff in third on 28 points, Ospreys in 14th on 17 points. Well, that's 11 points between the two. That's two games, and you're there. So Cardiff lose two with no points, Ospreys win two with bonus points, and all of a sudden that concertina comes in. Whether or not that then affects the European game, and whether you're in that position where you go, do you know what, securing top 8 for next season is a priority? Do we focus on that game, and whatever comes the week after comes the week after? Or do you go, you're still in 14th, the people above have kind of gone away, and now Europe is everything. So I think it's a really interesting dynamic when you get to that time of the season, because we're I think that's 4 games away in the URC. How that URC affects Europe, or you just toss a coin and you go, right, okay, let's see how it is. Either way, I think this is massive for both sides.
Yeah, it's great for
Absolutely
Welsh
massive.
rugby as well.
Yeah.
I agree. You saying, we're in 14th at the moment and we're only, 5-6 points off the playoffs. I was just having a look at our fixtures earlier to come. And I think we've got really good fixtures in the next few months. We're quite fortunate in the teams we're playing because we've obviously got Benetton next week. We've got about 15 players in the Italy squad. So that's a great time to play them. Then in the next Six Nations break, we've got Glasgow, again, 16 players in there in the Scotland squad. And then we've got Leinster. They've got 23 players in the Irish squad. I know they're going to have, no matter who comes, will be strong for Leinster. And then after the Six Nations, we've got Connacht at home. We've got a really good record against. And then you're into the three Welsh derbies. So I think all of those could potentially be winnable games for us. And then you're going away to South Africa with something to play for, and you never know. So I think even though in 14th, you say it's so tight between the playoff places and all the way down to 14, obviously forget Dragons and Zebra. But I think we've got a great chance to make the playoffs and kind of fight on both fronts.
And you're right. And the time to play, is there a good time to play Leinster and Glasgow? I guess you guys are going to find out in a couple of weeks because, like you say, it can go one way or the other.
Yeah.
It really can. And there's never a good time to play Leinster, let's be honest. But, I think is it 23 they've got in the Irish squad? I think, it's ridiculous a number to have in the Irish squad. But there we go. So all happy, everyone's slapped their backs for the Poe game, everyone's smiling, we're all kind of yay. Zach is still looking through his little book of Scarlet's insults to go, right, on what am I going to give Lee next? And we're back out with him. So back to reality now, Benetton on Friday. Benetton are a decent team. They're not the side they were a couple of years ago. Couple of players away with a Welsh squad, couple of injuries, and Benetton have got 12, maybe more away in the Italian squad. How are we seeing this? Let's ask Zach first. How are you seeing Friday's fixture, Zach?
I think it'll be quite close, to be honest. I can see us giving them a very good game, nonetheless. At the end of the day, we should be able to put out something that's close to what we saw in PAL. I think what the main people would be missing out from that performance were literally just Jack Morgan. And pretty much the rest of the team would be unchanged if it were to start, which is a very good position to be in terms of continuity. I like that we rotated a little bit for the PAL game because it means we do have some continuity going into these Six Nations fixtures. It means that some of the boys who haven't had a lot of game time this year, looking at Will Griff, Tristan Davis, who's coming back in, have all had a bit more game time to get used to the plan. You can see that Mark Jones is clearly working on something quite fun and new, and I don't see how Benetton can. I can see how Benetton can match us. I don't see how whether they're going to have that cutting edge, missing the likes of Melancello and all of their internationals. They're still missing players like Louis Liner as well, who are injured, and it's like we don't have that many players out. If anything, we have players coming back to us. We've got James Fender is hitting peak form after coming back from injury. Reece Davis is coming back and he's looking like a cunt as he is. And we're just hitting a rich rate of form. I'm quietly optimistic, I think is the way to put it.
So Benetton are in 7th on 23 points, just to kind of give you an idea of how far away they are. They started the season really poorly and have kind of built into the season, but they've still only got 4 wins, and Ospreys are on 3 wins and a draw. So
to be fair to Benetton, their 4 wins are what? Zebra twice and then the Dragons included in that? Which aren't.
they played the Dragons yet?
Yeah, they
I
played
forget.
in earlier this season, but it's not convincing. They look prime for the taking.
Okay, so Josh, tell me where. So obviously you're going to be without Dan Edwards on Friday. more than likely Owen Williams in at 10. How much of an impact does that make to the way you play the game now?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I think we've looked a lot less fluid with Owen Williams at 10. I think with the potential weather, what it is look like it's going to be, I think an experienced 10 might be actually quite helpful. If it's biblical levels of rain, then you're probably wanting an old experienced fly half to put you in the right positions, manage the game, don't play too much in your own half, which is why I probably would edge towards Owen Williams over someone like Jack Welsh. And I quite like having Jack Welsh at fullback anyway, and being that second distributor, second playmaker. So, yeah, it's going to be a missing Dan Edwards, but of course I was so happy to see him in the Wales squad that I'd happily miss him during this period, to be fair. And obviously, Benetton have Albonoz at 10, who's the Italian farmer. Very good player. I can't see him being at Benetton for too long, to be honest. I think he's going to go to the top 14 or Premiership at some stage because he's very good.
He feels born to play in France.
Yeah.
It just feels right for like a Clermont or something.
I think that's, even though they got so many players in the Italian squad, they've still got the Argentinians. Gallo is a very good loose head. They still got Fekitoa, former All Black, so there's still some real quality there. There's a few lads who played English Prem as well, who, are still involved. Rhino Smith is a dangerous runner from deep. So I think it'll be a close game. And if you look back at the results between Ospreys and Benetton, they have generally had very close games, whoever's come out on top. So I don't see that being any difference on Friday night.
So who do you bring in then, Nick, to cover Jack Morgan?
Well, there's a young lad who plays from Chabanos who's pretty decent. But I think Harry Deeves is likely to be fit as well. So it'll be very interesting to see whether they pick Tips or Deeves goes to the bench just to have that little bit of gain, that experience. But as I say, the rest, as I think Zach alluded to, there's not going to be many other changes. Steph Thomas limped off, didn't he? And so did both of that. That's a bit of a concern. I hope one or both are fit. But I certainly think we'll be putting out a very strong pack. Even if we keep the same pack, obviously Fendon and Spencer, but we also then maybe if Rhys Davies is fit, Will Griffiths. So we've got plenty of options to put out a very strong pack. And if the weather is not the best, we can perhaps go back to a tighter game.
I think that's the key now, that being able to play both ways, that perhaps wasn't there before, that I think maybe Mark Jones has started to develop a little bit more of an open game. And yeah, depending on where this weather system goes on Friday, I think Glasgow have rearranged their game from Saturday into Sunday to avoid the worst of it. It looks like it's going to be more rain than wind for us, but we won't know until Thursday. And by then, you've set up your team for the week and you'll play into a certain format. So this is what you're going to go with. So, Zach, what are you going to... Let's assume it's absolutely honking it down on Friday night, yeah? That it's almost Bridgend levels of wetness or on the park on Friday night. Who are you hoping to see on that park making something of that game?
I think Lewis Lloyd has a really good opportunity to step up. He was excellent against Pal last week, but I think now with Sam Parry going to Wales, this is his time to make a claim for a spot in the jersey a bit more permanently. He's been good in batches so far this season, if not, he had a bit of an injury layoff at the start. But with Derrier out and Sam Parry of Wales, it's time for him to stick a name to it and try and make a claim as a future going forward. He's looked really good. I think Ethan Lewis has also looked really good at the weekend, taking some great lines. Also out of the Reece Henry school of fashion of just being a bloke who's very good at rugby, which I appreciate. I think it's time for our type six, our pack to really come together and try and force something out. At the end of the day, we have the best pack in Wales for the last 3, 4 years, if not ever.
Hmm.
And it's time to show that he's still very, very good and can compete with arguably international quality packs when it is steaming it down.
Okay. So, Josh, we spoke about the players on the pitch. I'll talk about players, or not the players, what's happening off the pitch now. I mean, Mark Jones has had the the new coach bounce, if you like, and this week is very much back into reality. Kind of it could have worked one way or the other for him going into Christmas and a bit of a break, going into Europe, into a break, this, that, and the other, and it's worked really, really well for him. What are you hoping to see from him now and in this game in terms of team selection, in terms of tactics, in terms of development? What are you hoping to see from a Mark Jones Osprey side that you might not have seen from a Toby Booth Osprey side?
Well, yeah, from the weekend, just gone, it did look like we're going through more phases under a Mark Jones team and playing with a bit more width. And yeah, I thought our first phase playing ball retention was really good. What I'd like to see this week is probably an adaptation to that. Knowing what the weather's going to be like, knowing you're playing against a tough Benetton side, and probably playing a bit less in our own half. But yeah, we're going to really get to see that now. I think we've got a few injuries in the front row. It doesn't look like Steph Thompson is going to be fit. Well, he apparently had a scan, according to Mark Jones, I think. But I think Cam Jones travelled with them, so we've got decent replacements. I think we've got so many decent front rowers now at the club. And I think Duncan Jones has done a brilliant job with them. I know Adam Jones has now been given what looks like a scrum coach job of Wales, but I think Duncan Jones has done an absolutely superb job. And I think those coaches just under Mark Jones really deserve a lot of credit as well for bringing a lot of these youngsters through.
Too many Joneses in the coaching. Is that like a requirement now that you need to be called Jones in order to
And
coach?
Morgan to play in the back row for the Ospreys.
Yeah.
Come on, it always you can't say that. Well, there's not a Jones in the Wales squad. You can't. No complaints. Take what we
It
can
just
get.
doesn't work, does it? It's well, let's do the register. Jones, yes. Jones, yes. Morgan, yes. Williams, yes. Fine.
Going back
Right.
to your point about Duncan Jones, when you watched it on the EPC to whatever TV, there was no commentary, you see, so you could hear all the coaches screaming from the side, and Duncan Jones doesn't sound like he used to look, because he was a big tough prop, wasn't he? And he's got a little bit of a high pitched voice, so you can hear him screaming from the side. But he's done a really good job, and I got every faith in people with the younger lads will improve under Duncan Jones. It's well, it's almost a cliche, isn't it? But with props, they don't reach the peak until the mid to late 20s and can go well to the 30s. So I think our younger props have good futures ahead of them as well.
See, for games where there's no commentary, you can, like you say, you can hear the stuff around the pitch and all that but you almost want to have like a bunch of fans do it, or you want to, like, sometimes they just leave the ref mic on, and that's a
Yeah.
proper revelation. That
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I remember Autumn Nation series in 2020 when it was on Amazon Prime. You could just turn the commentary off, so you just heard the ref mic and the players, and it's fun. It's something I sort of miss, to be honest.
Yeah.
At a certain point, especially listening to certain commentators.
Well, there's certain commentators. I'd rather put the mic off
Yes.
and just watch.
Well, there was a time, wasn't it, where Jiffy was on comms. It was a Wales game. Jiffy was on comms, and all of a sudden, you just became aware that the actual commentator
I remember that.
wasn't speaking, and he'd had like a really bad stomach, and he just disappeared in the middle of the second half, and gone and thrown up.
Yeah.
And Jiffy's there, kind of going like, and that's Jones passing the ball to Williams, and this is going. And he was really out of his. He got so into his. I'm an expert, and and I'll analyze that a little bit. That the rest of the game, just completely threw him. He was gone.
These young lads won't remember. They've probably seen clips, but we were very lucky, weren't we, Lee? We grew up with the master in Bill McLaren.
Top notch.
And he was such a master of his craft.
Well, you used to look forward to watching games so you could listen to him.
Yeah.
Just you knew if you were playing Scotland, McLaren was commentating, and you were going to have a good laugh one way or the other. But if anybody's brave enough to do a fan commentary or to let us do a fan commentary, I'll snap your hand off on that, because that sounds great. That does. Right, let's finish up then with some predictions for the Benetton game. So I'm obviously not going to open my gob on this one. I'm going to stay firmly shut. Josh, you get the pleasure of embarrassing yourself for Ospreys and Benetton this weekend. I will say the weather is going to play a massive role in this, so we'll take all predictions this week with a pinch of salt. But you get to go first on that one, mate.
I think, you say with the weather, it's going to be tight. I was originally thinking Ospreys by 8, but now I'm thinking it's going to be even tighter than that. I think Ospreys by 4 is probably where my head's at right now. I think it'll be more than a penalty, less than a try. So I think Ospreys by 4.
All right, I'm expecting 7-3 final score. Penalty, only score for Ospreys, penalty try.
I'll take it.
So last time we did this one, we had a give us your prediction and something stupid that's going to happen in the game as well. So I'm going to put you on the spot here now, Josh. Yeah. So my prediction for the last game, I made a prediction, was that Harry Deeves was going to get angry with someone and lamp the referee. That one didn't quite come true. So give me something ridiculous that's going to happen in Ospreys and Benetton this weekend, mate.
Well, after his kick at the weekend, it's got to be Morgan Morse kicking a 50-22, isn't it, really?
Oh,
nice spiral.
Okay, so we've got Ospreys by 4 and a 50-22 from the legend that is Mr. Morse. Okay, Zach, your actual prediction, and are you going with 7-3?
No, I'm going with 14-9. Ospreys by 5.
Okay, Ospreys by 5, and the ridiculous incident.
I think Owen Williams is going to kick a penalty that hits both posts and go out.
Go out or go over?
Go out, and then we score off
it. Okay, fair enough. And Nick, your prediction and outrageous incident.
Well, my prediction is the weathermen aren't going to get it quite right, and the weather will not be quite as bad as what they're forecasting at this point. And I've got to stick to what I said the other night, and I'm going for Ospreys 28, Benetton 20. Ospreys win by 8. We get the bonus point, and this is the ridiculous thing is that given we haven't got Dan Edwards, the one concern I have got is our kicking, because Owen Williams and Jack Walsh are not the most prolific kickers, but I'm going for 100% kick completion in this game.
Okay, fair enough. 100% kick completion. Well, I will join in with the outrageous incident, and I will go for a Reece Henry drop goal from just outside the 22 with 5 minutes to go.
That'd be strong. He is injured for the season.
The wheelchair, bring him out with a wheelchair.
Okay. He did his calving before the Pal game
in training.
Yeah.
Oh yes, he did. No, you're right.
Harry Deeves. Substituted for Harry Deeves.
No, you kind of expected from Harry Deeves, didn't you? A drop goal from the 22 from Harry Deeves wouldn't be that much of a. Okay, I'm going with a streaker. I'm going with a streaker from one end of in between both posts, one end to the other, turning blue halfway down. We haven't seen one of them for years. So
you're planning on something late. Probably on a date to Swansea.
So are you saying
me.
that? Are you saying, Lee, that if we beat you in that match, you're going to do that as your penance?
Trust me, boys. I look at myself in the mirror every morning. That's not something you want to see on a rugby pitch anymore. I could trust me on that. Believe me. All right, gentlemen, we have reached that time in proceedings where it is time to wrap it up once again. So, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's been a pleasure, even though Zach is doing his absolute level best to wind me up and rile me. It'll be very cool. It is good fun sitting with you guys and talking about the Ospreys. So, thank you very much for your time and enjoy your rugby. All the best.
That was the Ospreys Diary. Please rate, review and share on socials if you can, and join us next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.